Dave Meltzer discussed this week that AEW, and I agree with him, lacks the big babyface superstar.
Yeah.
And I think they do.
Yeah.
And so now the question is, who can that person be?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of options, I think.
Yeah.
Inside and outside the company.
And it's interesting because when you first brought it up, I was like, what are you talking about? They have like a ton of great baby faces.
Yeah.
And he's not saying great baby face. I mean, he's not saying, like good baby faces. They have a lot of those.
He's
talking
Sting,
about
a Hogan, an Ultimate
headliner,
Warrior.
right?
Yes.
Someone who will take them to the promised land, or at least a good rights increase.
Do you think Jon Moxley was that guy, but he's been that guy for so long, the shine isn't there anymore?
Yeah, I think that's a really good description. I think for the first, probably from day one until really just now, he's probably been that guy.
Yeah.
And they've had other guys.
They have had other guys. And I think Moxley's largely been that guy, other than the Muffin era.
Yep.
But yeah, he's been in that role for so long. It doesn't feel special when Moxley's main eventing. It doesn't feel
right.
Now that the Adam Page trilogy is largely over. It's not that big a deal when he's in a match and you need somebody who feels like a big deal.
Right.
And that being said, there's a lot of guys right now that feel a little overexposed. Bryan Danielson, for instance. Number one, I don't think he wants that brass ring.
Right.
I don't think he cares. And number two, we see him every show. He feels a little overexposed to be that guy.
And he's just had a long career in, not that he's over the hill or anything, especially not as a performer, but just as someone who captures the imagination and gets people to tune in who haven't tuned in before.
And the thing is, I think there could be a storyline where he could potentially be that guy. But again, right now, I don't think you can do that. He's in the middle of this other thing right now. And even if it is with one of the top guy, it doesn't feel right. And I think you need to take him away to bring him back, to reintroduce him in a role that could potentially put him there. So I think it's too complicated right now for it to be Bryan Danielson.
Yeah. Hangman Page had a run. It was okay. He might have another.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think he can be that guy one day, but he's not right now. And again, he's a guy that I don't even like this phrase. They just have been dicking around with a lot of guys where he doesn't feel special, as in now he's just lost 2 of 3 to Mox. He doesn't feel like he's a top guy. I don't think you can make him the top guy after he's just lost 2 of 3.
And that's the thing. That's the thing that I think Dave pointed this out, and I know other people who've picked up the conversation since then have kind of pointed out, is that just the AEW booking style doesn't really get behind people that in that sustained way.
No.
I think, Darby is someone who could be a signature star.
Yeah.
If he were to go after the world title and have a run with MJF, it might be something that gets a lot of people's attention.
I think that could be a big program.
He's so stop-start with, whether he can even go before he runs himself ragged.
At this point, I don't even remember what I don't remember the outcome of the last Samoa Joe match. I think he lost.
He lost.
I believe he
and
lost.
He will not, and can't challenge again.
Of course not.
Yeah.
Of course not.
I mean, he can't challenge Joe again.
Yeah.
They said that, yeah.
Right.
But they could do something with them later.
They had something with Wardlow, and they sunk that ship deep.
They did. He would have been one of those guys. Yeah, he would have been one of those guys on that list.
Kevin,
yeah,
to resurrect him and get him to that level, it would take months of really good booking.
Yeah,
and I don't know if they have that booking in them.
How
AEW
short-sighted.
has great wrestling. Yeah, AEW has great wrestling.
Yeah,
but they're not. I don't think the booking has been good at all.
Yeah, it's definitely been. I guess short-sighted is the only thing I can think of. There's no reason that MJF and Wardlow shouldn't be like generational rivals.
Yeah,
and be the Luger and Sting and the or the whatever you want to compare them to, but like, there's no reason that Wardlow should not be the top tier babyface with MJF as, you know, the thorn in his side, who's the one guy that
And
he
they were
can't
right
vanquish.
there.
Right, they were
They
right
were
there.
right there at Double or Nothing.
Yep.
And it's all gone.
Yep.
And there are so I was thinking watching the shows this week. There are a lot of guys right now that I kind of like what they're doing with them.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, I'm always super hyped about Claudio.
Mm-hmm.
That we never see Claudio. We never see him.
Mm-hmm.
I like what they're doing with Kip Sabian.
Mm-hmm.
We don't really see him. There's a lot of guys that I think it wouldn't take a lot. And I'm not saying Kip Sabian could be the guy,
Right,
not
right,
at all.
Right.
But people who had momentum now they just disappear.
Yeah. There was a great example that Dave made on that show with Garrett, where he talked about back when Ric Flair was, you know, on top, and he had a set of guys that were the top guys. He had a set of guys that were in the mid guys, and a set of guys who were just like, you're just going to have a great match with.
Yeah.
And he would recognize when someone needed to be protected and when not and all that. And Sting going to a draw with him in '88 was a great example of him saying, well, this is a guy who's just meant to be a TV main event on my way to the big main event with Lex Luger later in the year. Mm-hmm. But I see something in this guy. And if I beat him on this TV special, he's not going to be what he could be.
Right.
So they did the draw. And I compare that to what they did with Konosuke Takeshita this past week with MJF. There is no reason that he could not have been the Sting on the way to Bryan Danielson being the Luger match, where it's the main match, but along the way, this one guy takes him to the limit and doesn't get beat, but still doesn't beat him.
Right.
And Takeshita, number one, it would have been great to, you know, I think we talked about it last week. It would have been great if Takeshita had taken him to a draw.
Yep.
And then it shows MJF like, man, can he hang in this 60-minute match? But also Takeshita, you're like, wow, that guy's top tier. Now instead he's, you know, tapped out.
Takeshita could have been. He absolutely could have been the guy. Absolutely.
And he had his own things to overcome, you know, just the language barrier and things like that. But like, he's definitely on his way.
Again, we've compared him to Muta in that Muta could have been a superstar.
Yes.
In WCW, but bad decisions were made. Mm-hmm. And Takeshita could be a superstar in AEW right now.
Yeah.
At this moment, he can be, and the fans are behind him. Mm-hmm. But they beat him.
Yeah.
And they keep beating him. He has very few wins, just over Brian Cage, I think. I'm sure there's a couple others along the way.
Yeah.
I still don't remember Eddie Kingston having a win, but apparently he's got a few. But Eddie Kingston is a perfect example of a guy that people wanted to get behind.
Yeah, he and absolutely was on the cusp.
Yeah, and they just let it go. Mm-hmm. They seemingly were uninterested in doing anything with him, and the fans wanted it. Mm-hmm. The only time they seem to have done what the fans actually wanted was when they put the belts on the Acclaimed a week too late. And maybe not too late because they've gotten over huge. Mm-hmm. And that's something, of course, the Acclaim that we'll talk about later in this episode.
Yep.
One person, I think there's some hope there.
Mm-hmm.
There's some people that for very short periods I think could absolutely be the big baby face coming up soon. And maybe it's not necessarily the one guy. Maybe you have a small group of guys.
Mm-hmm.
Adam Cole, I think, is somebody that could do it.
I think Adam Cole is that guy.
I think
Britt Baker is the other part of it.
I think that would be phenomenal. I would love for them to be like have each other's backs, be that 1-2 combo. They could absolutely be the big baby faces in AEW. And somebody else I'll just mention is Kota Ibushi. I think bringing in Kota, maybe even to back up Takeshita, and create a little stable there, I think could be amazing if they did it.
Yeah.
If they even can do it with their deal with New Japan, who knows?
Right.
But I think it'd be really interesting to bring him in, and not have him team immediately with Kenny Omega. And again, I think a lot of people would say, well, Kenny Omega could be the guy. I don't think Kenny is really wanting to be the babyface right now. Kenny
No.
had his run.
Yeah.
I don't think he makes a great babyface. I really don't.
No.
Feel free to attack me on Twitter at Peppermint Fatty.
Hey,
I haven't been attacked in days.
You're bored. I think
Exactly.
I think Kenny is a great babyface in Japan, but he does not translate as well. His demeanor, the way his interview style, all that stuff, it just doesn't translate as well.
I have a controversial statement about my feelings on Kenny. I'll probably have to share with you off the air.
Oh, okay.
It's too controversial for this show.
Too controversial.
We'll get pulled immediately off of YouTube, Spotify, everywhere we are.
What do you think of this Action Andretti guy?
Oh, man. You know, I like Action Andretti, and I think he is a fine Z-Man level guy at this point.
That's a great comparison.
Like, you've got Sting, and then you've got a few levels down, you've got Flying Brian, and just under that, you've got the Z-Man.
Yeah.
A very capable babyface.
That's right.
In a large group. And that's where I put him right now. I'm really excited to see where he goes.
That's not too many steps off, though. He gets one step up to that Pillman level.
Oh man!
Then he, the next level after that is pretty.
Speaking of Pillman level, man, I like AR Fox. They've got so many guys on the roster who are boring as hell.
Yeah,
Roosh, for instance. Man, I like AR Fox. I really like AR Fox.
He was incredible. He was my performer of the week this week. He was amazing.
Absolutely. You know what? He's Leo Rush, but not a quitter. And more entertaining than Leo Rush. Leo Rush without all the retirements from every organization in professional wrestling. However, Leo Rush now coming to MLW.
Oh, wow.
Will he retire? Who knows? Tune in Tuesday nights and see.
How many?
It's a big get.
Count every hour.